Okay, let's do a test to see if this works first. You guys say something.
Audio.
Yeah, that looks good.
Audio, audio, audio.
All the lights are doing things. I assume that's correct. Um. Okay. Odd. Did you follow in the insanity that happened after this battle? All the people.
Odd
fleeing.
has chased the insanity of the battle. She has hunted down men, and in the afterglow state, when they're gathering up people, I imagine the camera would be focused on her raven, and it's on top of a corpse, a Valorlander corpse, a man who has died without a weapon in hand. It crows once, and it looks to her, and Odd steps into the scene, into the camera. She's wearing her cloak of bones that falls from her shoulders, and bones are tied to her wrists and her arms and her thighs and her waist. But beyond the bones, she is naked, save for the sword in one hand and the dagger in the other. She stabs the sword into the ground, uncaring if it begins to tarnish or rust or blunt, and she takes the dagger and she cuts into this corpse's wrist. And then she flays the flesh from part of the arm and then breaks off part of the bone, and she puts it into a sack that she is carrying with her as well. A sack filled with other bloody bones from other failed warriors. She ties up the sack, and the raven flies to another body, and then she walks to that body to continue her grim work.
And as you try and ensure that the grim work is done, Thiodhild, you're sitting, kneeling next to the ruin of your horse. And the battle is over now, and you can see the grimness that follows a battle, almost worse than the battle itself. When people flee, that's when the real killing starts. And your horse, very much dead now, lies next to you.
The fur of the horse's haunch is wet from Teotilde's tears as she clenches the skin and the fur, weeping into the now dead horse flank. And she weeps and weeps.
There are other horses like running around, now riderless, now chariotless, like running around the place in chaos and in the fear. And this will continue for some time. This like madness that takes over men and women when the battle stops. And the killing truly begins. Well over an hour will pass before finally like the Tuathans are like dragged back into the village and are like piled together. You can see villagers like squatting down and like pulling rings off fingers, and like sometimes the ring won't come off, and so they just cut the finger off and pull it off the other side. You can see a man with like the blunt end of a dagger like smashing golden teeth out of a mouth to like loot as much as they can from these wealthy Tuathans. And this is what stands before you, Sigegnir, like the grim sort of work of taking what's takeable from these dead.
And I feel like Sigegnir would immediately look around for his other comrades. He would normally take part in this if he wasn't so injured. He doesn't want to show how injured he is by not being able to, bend down and pick up or loot the bodies and stuff like that. So he wants to make as few movements that would give away his condition, but he's still going to look around for his companions.
So in the aftermath, I think all of you, bar maybe Odd, who would still be beyond, doing her grim work with the dead, would gather in the village with the villagers, both from here and from home, and like pile up the dead Tuathans. They've taken all of the weapons, all of the armor, all of the gold, literally all of it, every single shred, from rings, from torques, from teeth, everything they could find, and they've piled it up in a corner. And then eyes turn to you, Sigegnir, as to what to do next.
There are people from the village who are kind of also gathered around here, right? He would immediately point to them. See to the wounded. Make sure that they are cared for.
Aye, Lord.
And then he would point to the back to two of the fighters who look like they are maybe the least injured. Take some horses and ride back to the Jarl. Let him know what has happened here.
My lord. They'll get on the horses and make way immediately.
And he would just stand up, just kind of overseeing everything that's going on, going from person to person, making sure they're being taken care of if need to be.
Yeah, and as you're doing so, I think like some blood trickles down your arm and like drips from your hand onto the ground, and like some of the villagers would see that but wouldn't say anything. And preparations are made and people are brought into houses. Fortifications are like put back together as best they can. Yeah, and you can like rest in the hall here that hasn't been burned. All of you can like pile in there and like get the hearth lit and food is provided and things like that. And you can take a rest here for as long as you like. The villagers are extremely grateful.
I imagine Odd would appear sometime later inside of this hovel. And then she would just stride up to you, Sigegnia, and drop the bag of bloody bones beside you. You would know better than to look at it, I imagine. And she would go to one knee, and with one hand, in a touch that's too tender for a woman as brutal as Odd, she would rub her thumb across that cut over your eye. And she would simply say to you, staring in your eyes with her one good eye, "You're hurt."
Sigegnia knows that there is no point in lying to Odd or trying to show that he's strong or tough. So all he does, he just lets out this breath of air and just slightly nods.
And then she, with this probing touch in both hands, begins to inspect every wound that you have. She sees where you're bleeding. She sees where you're bruised. She sees where something may be broken. And then she says, almost absentmindedly as she's doing this, I imagine blood covering her up to the elbows, both from you, but also mainly from the mutilated corpses outside. She says to you, "You fought well today. You bled well today."
Today was a good battle. It was well-deserved for us to win.
And yet you had the same grim face that I do afterwards. Look to the others. They smile and they laugh and they drink. But you do not, Sigegnia. And she looks up to you and meeting your gaze again when she says that.
I have spent many, many nights drinking and celebrating. Tonight, it feels different, though. Too many unanswered questions. I am concerned that this is not the end.
And for a long silence, Odd holds your gaze. And then she says to you, "Do you want me to find out these answers?"
Yes, yes.
She nods at that, and she leans in, and she gives you the softest kiss on your neck before she stands up, wipes the blood off on probably like a thatched wall beside her, picks up the bag of bones, and goes looking for Theodhild.
You'll see a bunch of the villagers like smiling and like won't approach you, Odd, but will like nod sort of thanks as you like move through the village. You'll see them like trying to rebuild as best they can and gather those dead. They've gone out beyond to like get the villagers who had been sent out and had spears thrown at them to like gather those up to like prepare them for a funeral. And as you like make your way past those bodies or whatever, you can see Theodhild kneeling next to her horse.
Theodhild is like a shadow behind you at first, Theodhild. And then, are you weeping right now or no? Are you still weeping after all this time?
It is not much of a weep anymore. but more of a reverent silence as she stares into the corpse, at the ruined corpse of her horse.
So she looms behind you by a few feet, and then she finally says, "The All-Father has called on you."
To do what, may I ask?
Sigagnir is worried. He is worried that these two are strange. He is worried that they should not be here with Gunlanders. He is worried that this battle is unnatural and that crows feast on the dead and not ravens. We need answers.
She nods after a pause. And she rummages through her belongings. And from it she pulls out berries, small berries that have red juice. She crushes them between her fingers, staining them, and begins to draw markings in deep red in the horse fur. Very well, she says. I'll see what this horse can say to me one last time.
She doesn't answer. She doesn't respond. She doesn't give you any acknowledgement of thanks or good job or anything like that. And just again drops that bag of bones. And then she's going to sit with legs crossed behind you and watch you as you work the magic of Anaheim to speak to this horse.
And I trace markings and patterns and runes and symbols upon the horse flesh. Sometimes I brush the mane of this horse. Perhaps it's a ritual moment. Maybe it's just, some strange just flight back to the time before when the horse was still alive. And I can't imagine that the horse says much after a long ritual like this. The horse never did say much in its time alive. But nonetheless, she wishes to use this as a conduit to a more knowledgeable set of knowledgeable people. That was a very bad phrasing.
Yeah. So are you going to attempt to do
commune? Yeah.
What's it called?
I'm doing some kind of communion or commune here.
Is it anthropomancy with the liver and the augury kind of that kind of thing?
Divination through entrails, yeah.
Right. Is that what you're?
Yeah.
trying
So
to do?
after I carve the symbols upon its flesh with a knife, I split its gut with a slow, kind of nasty cut. It catches on places, and Tiltil isn't actually the strongest, so just shove it through certain ribs, and eventually, the guts spill, and there's the augury performed.
So you can sift through just this avalanche of horse bits that will pour out, and sift through the guts and find after significant searching the liver, and you can pull it out, and you'll see from the shape an omen of woe, of bad things to come, of bad things that have passed or will pass. It's always a little bit unclear, and you can search through for the rest of the heart, the spleen, all these different parts, and also the entrails themselves. It's this quite a long and involved process, but through it all you get this picture of an awakening in Valleyland of things that are old, and a deliberate awakening of things that are old, something's been done to try and wake things that have been asleep or that have vanished from the land for a long time. And you get this impression of a great shift in the feel of Valleyland.
These men from afar, odd. They will not be the strangest thing to occur in the time to come. Something once that has slept now begins to stir. I fear what may come.
Odd listens. Then she stands. She rises with the bones. She picks up the bag. The raven kind of like circles overhead and then flies back into the town. And she gives you this look that's undecipherable. And then she says, I must find Astrid. And then she will turn and go looking for where Astrid is.
Probably still kneeling next to Asvald in the like behind where like the lines of the battlefield were, because his injuries were probably such that she wouldn't want to move him without help or assistance.
Yeah, I think at this stage, like, villagers would have helped you lift the chariot off him, the horse actually that was on him, and like pull that, so that now he's like lying free. But even so, you think it might be risky to like move him.
Is there a weapon in your hand right now, Asvald?
Asvald is still he's clutching this spear. It's this giant boar spear that has impaled the horse, and it is kind of like broken in his arms as he lays mangled under this great beast.
Odd will approach you both, and she approaches lightly, her footsteps not even crunching on the snow. And when she's standing beside you, Astrid, she looks down at Asvald and she says, will he die?
Say, would he die?
Will he die?
No, I don't think so. He's just, if the Valkyries were going to come for him, they would have. We've been lying here for quite some time.
I see.
He's made it this far. He should make it. She
That's
sounds, there's like a questioning to it, but she seems certain.
We will need his runes. But more importantly, Astrid, we will need your knowledge of the forest soon. You've been hunting for a long time, yes?
For nearly, she like counts backwards in her head, 5 or 6 years at least. And learning with my father before then.
Have you seen places in your travels that were strange? Not strange as in normal strange, but strange as in...
Valleyland strange?
Yes.
Has she?
I think definitely, like, if you spend enough time in the forests of Valleyland, you will come across like ancient stones or trees that are like marked with spirals and symbols that are like not the symbols of the Aesir, you know? And you would come across like altars and stuff like that, like not frequently, but the amount of time that you spent in the woods, I think you would know, and you would probably steer clear of them because you know that strange things tend to happen there.
Yeah, like the Loki wolves that wandered near Alcombe. They're more often and frequent in those places, and she'll say that to Odd.
When we return back to home, and we have spent some time looking at wounds, I will tell the Jarl what I have seen here, or Sigegni will, to be accurate, and then I will need you to help me. I will need you to lead us to these places you have found, so that we may investigate and destroy them if needed. There is something wrong. Or at least there is something waking, and I wish to put it back to sleep for a time.
Astrid just nods and says, I can do this.
A week from now, I will heal your father for you as thanks. And then she would pick up the bag of bones, and then before you could say anything, she would head back to the hut with Sigegnir's at.
So if there's nothing you guys want to do you want to rest here? Do you want to try and go home and rest? That's really up to you guys. I know that you guys want to take some time to recover, which is smart. But you can do that here. It's like a safe place now, you think. There's enough people here, enough warriors and things like that to rest here if you so choose.
I would think the Jarl would want us back sooner than later. So my suggestion is to go back, but I'll leave it up to the others.
If we could transport Asvald without like injuring him further, I think we could head back and do get our real good long rest home.
Yep, I don't think it's like impossible for you guys to refit that chariot into like a stretcher, something like that. It wouldn't be too much work. There's definitely like a Wainwright in the village who can like fix a wheel. So you can like get to that and make a thing. So you can bring Asvald on that, and He probably would come to consciousness at some stage during the journey back to Icombe. Though maybe it's just like fleeting glimpses, Aswald, that you would see. And always overhead, you would see crows, not ravens. And you know the difference. And it would probably strike you as odd and maybe quite frightening that every time you wake, it's not ravens that you see, but crows.
I think he would continuously close his eyes every time he saw one, drifting off again into some sort of fever dream and opening them again, hoping that they were different.
You have these strange dreams as you like travel most of the way, and as you like close your eyes trying to remove that image of crows, you see this like beautiful woman with like this white skin, totally pale, with this long black hair that turns into raven feathers, and she'll like stand atop a hill, and you will see that she like looks down upon this burnt land before her, all the forests, all the fens, all the homesteads, everything burnt, and you'll like wake as she like turns to look at you and smile. You'll just like come back to wakefulness all of a sudden.
I think each time that Oswald wakes a little, he mutters out some prayer, some thing that maybe Astrid or anybody who's close. And he's just kind of rambling. A struggle to remain tall. You sacrificed the 9 days. He's just pretty much unintelligible, but he's saying something.
So the rest of you would hear Oswald occasionally like shouting this in his sleep, his like fever dreams, until finally, like a few days later, you would arrive back at Icombe, and you can make your way to the Jarl's Hall to report. But you'd notice that there are people here. There's other warriors here and other Jarls here. There's been some sort of meeting, and as you like enter into the hall, you'll see that there are 2 Jarls here with some of their Huskarls and things like that. You will recognize one of them very clearly, Sigegnir. Jarl Citric Einarsson. He's a man you recognize for a very particular reason. You can recall a battlefield, and you can recall him leaving you to die. And he's like sitting and he's like speaking in the ear of the Jarl. He's like a thin man. He doesn't have a beard, but he's got this like long black hair, a tattoo of across half of his face. And he's like talking to him, and he's like smiling, and then he like turns to see, and his like smile turns sour as he like sees you enter the hall. And the Jarl is like, he like turns to him to say like, oh, what's wrong or whatever, and he's like, oh, ha ha ha, and like goes back to talk to him as if nothing had happened. The other man is Jarl Heston Arnson, who's the other local Jarl here. None of them Valley sons, thankfully. Yeah, and so they're in there, they're talking and chatting, obviously discussing problems. You can tell from like the tone, but you can present yourself to the Jarl. He'll smile seeing you again, Sigegnir, and the rest of you. You've been in battle.
Sigegnir would make a brief greeting, just like a slight bow of his head. He is keeping all eye contact away from Jarl Citric.
Citric, yeah.
Okay. And his fists are clenched, but he, with as even of a voice as he can, he says, we managed to take back the village and destroy any who had fled. We had a few casualties, so... And you can see like he's kind of like stumbling over his words, like he's very like flustered, but he's trying to keep eye contact with the Jarl.
Jarl Heston, who sits on the other side of the Jarl, is like a big man with a very long beard that he's like tucked into his belt, and a big bald head. And he like leans forward. He's got this mead in his right hand. It was savages, wasn't it? The Tuathans.
Yes. And there were some Gunlander among them.
I don't like it. He turns to the Jarl, and the Jarl nods. There have been attacks on other Jarldoms by the Tuathans, he says to you. Both Citric and Heston have suffered at their hands. It is not localized to just here. It's a bigger problem than we would have thought. And Citric says, indeed, quite a problem. And you led them to victory. He looks at you. What's your man's name? And the Jarl says, Segegnir. Segegnir.
Oh man, Segegnir would just if eyes could kill, this is the first time he's looked directly at Citric. But he quickly looks back and he says, does anyone know of why they're here? Why attack? And why now?
It's obviously our wealth they're after, Citric says. And he like sits back and like picks up this piece of chicken and just like munches on it and continues to talk. The Gunlanders have fine steel, but they do not have the fine mead and the fine food of Valleyland. It's obviously why they're here. And Heston like shakes his head. Bullshit. It's Gunlanders.
I doubt that the Tuathan would come all this way and not fight for just some mead.
The gig mead. Odd would say behind you. And she would step open, and she's holding this pouch in her hands. And she pulls a string, and when the burlap falls away, you see the head of the Tuathan prince that she's decapitated and carried with her. And she says to the three Jarls, this was a Tuathan prince. He said he wanted to speak with the Jarl. He came to us under a white flag, but he would not speak with us, and so he rode off, and then we fought him, and then I killed him. But he did want to speak with you, so they were here for more than just raping and eating.
He will do precious little speaking now, woman, Citric says, obviously annoyed at the death of this man. He like looks at the head and back to you, and then to the Jarl, like, who is this maniac? And the Jarl says, I understand.
Jarl's got my back.
Well, you did what you had to do. This is a real concern. We don't have the men to fight them. There's a great many of them have landed on the coast. We might have to go and speak with Bragi, he says. And you would all know of Bragi, Berthgar's son, who's like claims to be one of the descendants of Valley, quite a powerful Jarl. Though he's a notorious arsehole, clearly from the tone. This cannot be tolerated, the invasion, or whatever this is. I don't understand why this is happening. There's been... Heston, you tell them. And Heston says, there's been problems in my earldom. A sickness passing through several of my villages. And animals coming from forests to attack farmsteads. It's odd. Only since the Tuathans have landed. Has there been any religious fuckery here since they've landed?
Odd looks to Segegnir to speak.
They have been stealing oath gold. And you can see him, he holds on to his Mjolnir when he says this, just kind of brought back to that point. But the spirits, they become angry. And they put a curse on the nearest village. I can only expect that is what's happening.
It's no fucking good, Jarl. It's no fucking good stealing from the dead. Can't tolerate it. And he's like nodding. we have much to discuss. You should rest. You have done well. And he like reaches up and he takes an arm ring from his arm and he hands it to you, Sigegnir. And he like basically ushers you away to say to like rest and relax, and there'll be a discussion at a later date. And Citric just like watches you as you like leave the hall, and you can like feel his eyes boring into the back of you. He doesn't speak until you're like right at the edge, and then he says, "My lord, about Sigegnir, I was just curious." And that's when you like leave the hall as he starts shit talking you. So yeah, you guys can like rest for the week and like try and recuperate as best you can. And over that time, Astrider, Thiodhild, and Odd, you can all see to Asvald's healing. You can like set the broken bones and like close whatever wounds he has. You'll continue having that fever dream, Asvald, like throughout the week. Always with this woman. It's like mixture of beauty and terror, like on a knife edge. The flip from beautiful to terrifying is all in the way that she smiles at you at the end of each time, just before you wake up. This woman with raven hair.
Does Asvald share his dream?
Well, if it's a fever dream, he probably hasn't had a chance to
Yeah.
really yet until he recovers.
I think until he's got a bit more of his wits about him and his health back, he's probably just rambling. So you might be able to catch pieces here and there of what he's envisioning, but it's also mixed in with prayers to Odin.
And so the week will pass with you recovering as best you're able. Yeah, and at the end, Asvald, you would like awake finally. You like stink of sweat, of fever sweat, but you're whole again. And like there's some stiffness and pain in your ribs, but otherwise you're back to your usual happy self.
Oswald will awaken his normal, cheery, happy self and glare at everyone around him. We are safe back in the village. We did not die. And he will speak to anyone near.
I think that Sigegnir might be near. He would have checked in on Oswald every so often. No. The hall awaits for a bit more time yet.
I could have sworn there were Valkyries. I do not remember much after the crash. The sudden stench of horse flesh. I awoke a few times, covered in the sweat of battle. The dew of death was upon me. My hair matted. Was carried at one point. I thought I was being lifted to the skies. I say I'm here, broken, but alive.
You fought well. You saved many with your efforts.
Kept that chariot from crashing into the back of us. It would have been the end of most of the villagers. Probably all of them.
These Taun, they do not know battle. They are disgraceful. Their honor, it is piss in the mud. They wish to talk. They burn our people. They charge our backlines with horses. Tell me, did they die?
Yes. They were all chased down.
Was it at least in the name of Odin? Or did the Skag do it?
No. Our own.
My blood boiled that I said things. I told the Skag to do her worst. I feared perhaps I had cursed us all. But I see we are alive. Thank the Allfather.
This is Valleyland, Asvald. There are the Aesir, and there are others, and both have their places. The Old Hild has her place, just as you and Odd, Zagegnir, and I have ours.
Yes, this land, it is quite different from my home. A skag would be burned there in the streets. People would drink and cheer. But here it seems they are a household item which people call upon from the woods to come slinking and helping with their... No, it is different here. You do not burn witches.
Different does not always mean worse or better.
Yes.
It's just how it is.
Very well. I will thank the Old Hild when I see her next.
If the Old Hild wasn't around, Odd probably wouldn't be, and Odd arguably, well, healed the Jarl's daughter and fought with the strength of what we were missing.
Asvald actually looks chastised and wounded when you mention those last two acts. And he kind of is a bit crestfallen. He kind of glances away and then looks back. Odd is a powerful woman, a warrior. Perhaps more. I did not know this. Did the blade burn bright in battle?
Brightest. She carried the bonfire and the fires of Valhalla in her hand.
This damn place, my head is so confused. Thank you. And he turns away, muttering prayers to Odin, trying to deal with the ramifications of these events. Still struggling to understand why Odin would allow others to wield such power in this strange, strange land.
So after a week of rest, there'll be like a meeting called. Certainly Zagegnir will be invited. I don't know if Theodhild would be invited. The other Jarls, you can tell, are like less enthused about having someone of Theodhild's talents there. Asvald, because of his station, would be invited, but I don't know. I think that Citric is quite nervous of Odd and also dismissive of Odd, and so would say, oh, we don't want her there. So the call would go out, basically the invite would come to Zagegnir and Asvald. Now if you other guys want to go, nothing's going to stop you.
Odd would appear just because she's like the Jarl's, like his bottom dude, pretty much the warrior that he looks to get stuff done the most. And when she enters, even if this Jarl Sithric looked at her strange, why is she here? She would completely ignore it because one, she's healed the Jarl's daughter, and two, this is not his Jarldom. This is her Jarl's Jarldom, and it is by his side that she will stand. Unless he dismisses here, which is kind of awkward, but she would leave.
No, that's fine. He won't. They'll be sitting at the feast table, and there will be food and drink brought out. There's a singer from Citrix Land who will sing a song of the story of Thor when he goes into Jotunheim, and does all the challenges with Garda Loki, the giant, and he's they trick him over and over again. They're like, I bet you can't lift this cat, but they've disguised the cat to be Jormungand the world serpent. And they say, bet you can't drink all the meat in this thing, in this horn. And he's like, oh, I can drink it all. And then it's the ocean that's in there. And Thor does pretty well, and he's singing this song basically as you come in and enjoy yourselves and eat. And then at the end of it, the discussion, and the Jarl will put his elbows on the table and lean forward and say, there has been a sickness that has spread to several villages. I would like you to investigate. For now, the Tuathan threat is being dealt with as best we can. We have sent for aid from Bragi, Berthgar's son. Beyond that, we may need to send for aid from your people, Oswald, if it comes to that, but we shall see what we can do before it comes to that. I don't want to try and indebt the king, nor any jarls in Kincastellan, for our squabbles here in Valleyland. This sickness has spread to several villages, notably Skog, which is on the edge of a great forest, and Fliot, which spans one of the great rivers of Valleyland. They are both in Jarl Heston's land, and so we will be doing Jarl Heston a great favour, he says, and Jarl Heston tips his mead cup and smiles. But beyond that, there have been attacks by animals in other villages. This needs to be investigated also. You'll be stretched thin, and I'm asking a lot of you. But we have to work together as best we can to deal with this situation. People are dying.
I think that Aswald has recovered a bit, enough at least to speak his piece. I have sworn an oath. I will do what I can. As much as I would wish to see the brothers of my city here, I do not think that they will deal with the situation as well as I have, which is poorly at best. There would be a hell of a lot more crotch grabbing and spitting, if you understand my meaning.
The Jarl smiles. You have done admirably well, Oswald, and your service is appreciated. Though you can see Citric sort of sneer as he picks up a tomato and squishes it between his mouth. And the Jarl says, as I say, you have done well, and we're grateful for your service. And I think you'll be instrumental in getting to the bottom of what is happening in these villages.
My Jarl, I am your warrior. Do I go to fight the Tuatha, or do I go and investigate these villages in Skog?
I think it's best you go with Sigegnir. He will need your help.
Just gives a curt nod at that, and then she takes a clay tankard of mead and then pours it into a horn and then just drains the entire horn and just doesn't say anything, just listens.
Sigegnir would just look at the Jarl and say, I am honored to serve you, and we will do the best that we can.
They should take the witch, Jarl. I hear you have a talented witch in your woods, and these seem to be unusual events that she might have a good understanding of. Citric says, and the Jarl kind of nods slowly. He's right. You should take Theodhild. And you have my leave to take 5 others of your choice, Sigegnir.
Sigegnir would nod. Thank you, my lord.
And you can just enjoy the rest of the evening as best you can. How much you can enjoy it sitting near Citric is a different question. And he'll boast loudly about his victories. And his singer will sing many songs about his victories and particularly highlight the honourable way in which Citric fights and the fact that he leads from the front. He's always there in the shield wall, and how his bright sword shines in the battle. Maybe you have different ideas about how that goes, but a singer definitely sings it a certain way.
Sigegnir would just be drinking more and more and more after every song that is sung about Citric. He would just drink another full mead and just keep asking for another. And he's getting kind of just a little bit blurry-eyed, and he just seems to be getting also more and more angry as time goes on.
Odd would pick out like the biggest, burliest huskarl that she can find from Sithric's men. And I imagine like fights break out, but people also do like wrestling matches or stuff like this when Jarls meet up. And once she finds him, Odd's going to lean over and like jab Sigegnia with her elbow and say, "That's me." And she's indicating for you, Siggy, to go fight that guy. Let off some steam. Go punch him.
Sigignir just nods. He just takes back a bunch more of this meat and just kind of slams down his mug and just goes over and talks to this guy.
Hey, come sit. He's like a smiley huskarl. He's obviously well in his cups as well. He's like enjoying the delicious mead that they have here. He's like sitting next to some of his friends, and he can like see that you're a warrior of significant station with your gear and whatnot, and that you have a sword. And so he would like smile and like offer you a seat.
Yeah, Sigegner would take the seat, and he would just take like the closest thing of mead, not really caring whose it is, and just drink it.
He like looks at you when you take his mead and drink it, and there's like a look, and he like smiles at his friends like, this guy, what's going on? But he's like in somebody else's hall, and he like knows his manners, and so he just like stands and like grabs a wench around the waist and like pulls her close, and he like whispers in her ear to go get more mead, and like slaps her on the ass as she goes away. Listen, there's plenty of meat to go around. Hey, what's your name?
Sigegner. And yours?
Sigegner.
That is what I said. Yes.
He looks at the guy next to him, and he's like, why do I know that name? Why do I know that name? He's like punched him in the arm. The other guy's like, don't talk about it.
Asvald would like to stumble forward if he can at this moment.
Yeah. The other guy's like looking at him like, you probably shouldn't talk about it. He's like, why do I know that name? Why is that familiar? What's...
You know this name because Sigagner is the hero of this recent battle with the Tuatha. He threw back the hordes.
Is that it? Is that why I...
He is legend.
You're and he like leans in close. He's like, you fucked the Jarl's wife, right? That's you, right?
And you just see Sigegner just smile, but not out of like happiness, but just this really like wry smile. And he would just nod and start laughing, and then just punch this guy in the face.
He's like laughing with you because he's like, this is funny, we're all laughing about it. And then it's like boom, and you like knock him back out of his chair and onto the ground. The two guys on either side of him stand up immediately. Like one of them goes like picks him back up, and he's like, what the fuck? And he like goes to swing for you. But he's like clumsy, and you're excellent at fighting, and so it like you're able to like step back, and he like and like stumbles into the table, which is like knocked onto the ground, and there's an immediate just like as if gasoline has been lit, just this woof, and like everybody's standing up and everybody's shouting like, what the fuck, and people are like throwing shit at you, and there's like just insanity that breaks out everywhere. And you can see like Heston, who's the biggest of the Jarls, who's like bellowing like, what the fuck is going on, everybody chill the fuck out. And he's like shouting at some of his boys to like go over and like break up the fights, and everyone's like in between everybody and all this insanity. How far do you want to go with this? Do you want to like try and fight through the people to like punch this guy some more, or are you like happy to let people to get between you?
Yeah, no, he's just happy to get that one punch in. He would not, after like a little bit of like feigning to get in, he would let people just kind of separate them. And if the this wench is coming in with the ale, he would grab it again and just kind of cheers this guy and drink it.
He like looks at the guy next to him, and the guy next to him, who's like black bearded and much more serious, he like looks to him and he just like shakes his head like, you're in somebody else's hall, you shouldn't be starting fights. And he like nods, and he'll like pick up some mead and he'll like drink it back looking at you. He'll sit back down. Probably shouldn't talk about that so loudly, huh?
Sigegner would just kind of, yeah.
Listen.
Satisfied that her work has been done, is going to take an empty bowl and then a knife, and she's going to go to Astrida's hut and leave the hall.
Yep, you can make your way outside. Theodhild, you're like in your hut, I imagine, at this stage. Maybe baking to like take your mind off the loss of your horse, and just like trying to busy yourself. And as you're like doing that, and you're like mixing the ingredients and stuff like that, there's this like image that forms in the dough. It's like weird experience for a moment. And as you like pull it apart, like out of the dough come these crow feathers, like a bunch of them just like spurt up into the air. And you like look strangely at it, and they just like this like flutter of crow feathers, and then a crow comes out of the dough and like flies around the inside of your house for a moment before out the window.
Toadhill looks at this ruined piece of dough, kind of plucks out a few feathers that are stray, and kind of just mushes it back together and plops it back in the bowl. It's still good. And then she looks out the window to see where the crow flew off to.
So
gazing at the sky.
Yeah, it would have flown northeast. Not towards Icombe, like towards the sea.
And she ponders that for a moment. And this will stray on in her surface thoughts. And she goes back to the dough and kneads it once more, and forms it and shapes it, and once again pulls another feather out that was, a little bit mixed in. And then she slams it down onto the counter, grabs her distaff from leaning against the wall, and heads out to follow the crow's path. Unsatisfied with just letting it be.
So in the night, you make your way through the woods, unworried about what dwells there, and you can like follow. It hasn't gone far. As you like come out into the woods, you'll see it up in a tree. It'll like turn its head to the side and like at you, and then like fly maybe 20 feet away to another tree. It's leading you somewhere, and you can like follow.
And she does so. Being wary and having her wits about her, of course, but nonetheless follows.
Yeah, there's like this strange experience as you're like following it. It's definitely bringing you somewhere, and as you like follow it for the best part of an hour, if not longer, you're in a part of the woods that you've never been to before, but it's not that far from your home. So either you haven't stumbled upon this place, or it's not usually here. Those are the things that like run into your mind. And you like come upon this altar. It's like stone altar. It's like not even in a clearing, like trees have grown around it. It would be unrecognizable as an altar, except that the crow has landed on it and it's like pecked on it. And as you like see, it's deliberate. Like it's just a bunch of rocks, but it's deliberate, and it's like stained brown. And you can like look quite carefully at it, and you can see that there are markings, spirals, Tuathan markings. You think of old gods.
She brushes away the snow and the leaves and the vines and the needles to further expose this altar to the light of day. I guess the light of stars in this case.
Yeah, there's this like very crude image of a woman there with wings. And she's like standing sort of proudly with like her arms splayed out to the side and her wings spanned, and like spirals and like shapes moving away from her in different directions.
She traces her finger on this painting on the stone, taking note of all the curves and the shapes and the colors, or the lack thereof, on this altar. She looks at the ground around the altar. Are there any debris and bits of forgotten things here?
So you can like dig like through the snow and all the bits that you can like search through for like quite some time, but then eventually you'll find this bone. It's like long, like the traditional idea of what a bone looks like, you know, like a cartoon sort of bone, like a thigh bone, a human thigh bone, you think, by the shape.
And it's just a good old plain bone, or is it got carvings and stuff on it?
It's just plain.
She rests it atop the altar, hoping to, have it stand out, and just she ponders it. She looks at it. She examines it. She strides around, pacing around this altar, looking at this bone, looking at the altar from many different angles. Does she recognize this painting, this symbol of a woman?
You could give me lore or Seathwise.
That'd be a 23 on the Seathwise.
You do. It's an old god. Not the Aesir, not the Vanir, not the Jotun. Something separate to that, from a different pantheon, one that people don't follow anymore. But you know the Tuathans do. It's their gods. Gods that used to be in Iskloft way, way back when. And you think it's Morian or the Morrigan.
She looks up at the branches of the boughs around this little glade. Is the crow still here?
Up above, yeah.
She calls to it. Why have you brought me here?
Ah!
You can caw all day long. Or you can speak to me. Why have you brought me here?
It just like turns its head side to side, like it's trying to understand what you're saying. And then will like caw several more times. Ah! Ah! And then like louder and louder. And then it will say in a clear voice, "This is my home." Ah! And will fly away.
It is many people's homes. And then she brushes away more and more of the debris in this glade just to get, and imagine at the end of this, she's pushed away all of the snow with her feet just to really clear this place out of any stray branches, any stray debris, to really get a glimpse of what's going on.
Yeah, like by the time you've cleared it all away, like maybe, a couple of hours of work, you've like pulled everything away and like you've cleared. And you can see that, like when you've done that this, like the trees on either side of it, like have been placed there deliberately, and that they like grow and like intermingle above, almost like an arch or like a gate. Is like the thing that you see, and it's on like a hill, and you can definitely tell this is like a deliberate place and a deliberate growing of trees and things like that. And you'll find as you like search through many more bones of men.
And as she takes in every detail of this place before leaving, she grabs that bone upon the altar that she picked out and tries to find her way back to her own hut, keeping note of which paths were taken by the crow, just be able to maybe find her way back here at a future time.
No problem. You can make it back home safely. Odd. You're like searching for Astrider. Where would she find you, Astrider?
Probably at home with her father. It's like he's so sick that she doesn't take time for celebratory functions unless like she's specifically called for them.
So Odd would knock on the side of the wall on the front of your longhouse with the ball just 3 times and wait for you.
Yeah. Very quickly, like Estrader would like come and like kind of like look in surprise. It's like you're not at the long hall with the others.
I was already there, but I have more important business I must get out of the way now, or I will never get a chance to do so again.
You're here for the she kind of like trails off, like not like you said that you were going to do it, but she's not going to like say it, like, not going to remind you like, hey, you said that thing, but
She
she's
holds up the bowl and the knife and she kind of taps one against the other and she says yes.
okay. Tell me what I need to do.
Get me a bowl of water, puts me beside the fire, or I can just go to his bed. I am unconcerned.
And Estrader will like lead Odd inside and go for the water and try to like set things out for Odd, but like she can tell like she's kind of nervous. It's like this one thing to like see like Theodhild heal Odd, and to see Odd heal the Jarl's daughter. Like this is her father who's been sick for years now, and so it's kind of like surreal.
How old are you again, Astrid?
What did I say? I think 20, 21, something like that.
And she sits on the ground beside your father's, I guess, like reed mat or whatever he's sleeping on, with the bowl in front of her. And she kind of like sits up straight and she says to you, or to ask you, why are you not married yet?
And she like looks down at her father and says he got sick before I was old enough, and then it was this is more important.
And when you say this is more important, Odd nods, and she takes his arm and she lays his arm across her lap, and she sees how clammy, how sweaty, how pale he is. And as she's tracing the knife down the arm, she says to you, I am not sure if I agree. Even now, Odin has chosen me. He has taken my eye. He has guided me, but it is lonely in Iskloft, as an Escalander without another. I've had 2 husbands. Now that I have none, things are strange.
Don't think like Estrader would really like know how to respond to that, but we just kind of say I've had my father. I have Dag and Amon and Kari. Haven't been alone as such.
It is often you do not miss something until it is gone. I learned that when I lost my eye, and when I was nearly killed. I assume that as I speak to you like this, you must be confused. Odd does not speak to anyone like this, as I'm sure you would tell someone else if you were close to that person. But Sigagne forgets this, and the Jarl forgets this, and everyone else forgets this too. And she looks to you and she says, I was a farmer and I was a woman before I was ever a berserker in Odin's name. I am still those things too. You must be wondering why I'm telling you this now.
A bit, yes, if I'm honest.
If I was honest with you too, which I am being, I don't have much of a reason. When you have nothing to talk to but bones, you forget what it's like to talk to somebody else. The Raven doesn't talk much either.
Can't imagine the bones are good conversationalists, no.
You'd be surprised. They've said many interesting things to me, but none of them worthwhile. As I'm doing this ritual, listen to the song that I sing. I think you are someone who would benefit from listening to it and learning it yourself. I can cure him now, but I do not know if whatever sickness plagues your father may return. and I do not think I will live another winter.
I think that kind of quiets Astrider, and so she just kind of like sits down across from Odd, like taking a similar pose and like preparing herself to listen.
And I won't go through the whole ritual again, but this time when Odd begins to sing, it's not that throat singing she did before for the Jarl's daughter. Half of that was for show to impress upon him what she had learned and her position in the village. So when she sings now, it's with her actual voice, which is surprisingly sweet, surprisingly gentle. And as she's singing, she begins to dig in with the knife, cut after cuts, and that black fluid, that ichor, swells out. And this would continue into the morning. And she would see that her father is visibly getting well, getting more color to his skin, sweating less and less throughout the night, until eventually everything is done, and they're just left with this bowl full of black goop between the two of them.
Do you know how this works? Is it just a gift from Odin?
And she's sweating, she's tired. You can see that her left eye, her only good eye, is kind of like half closed, as if she might pass out. And she puts the knife down over top of the bowl, and she says to you, Astrid, I had a dream, and the raven told me what to do. How it works, I do not know. Not medicine. I know medicine. But I don't think it's really magic either. No spell. Just Odin, or something similar helping us. Do you have any mead by chance?
Yeah, I do. And like Astrid will get up and get some for Odd.
And I feel like a normal amount for Astrid is just like, I don't know, like half a tankard or something, like half a cup. So
Yeah.
she takes it and like for what you might be like an hour sipping on it, she takes it like it's like a shot of vodka and then hands it back to you. And she says, thank you. We will be leaving soon. If not later today, then tomorrow.
Thank you for what you've done. It's more than anyone's been able to.
If you wish to thank me in true, then everything I said to you, both last night and before the battle, do not tell anybody. And then she will leave.
Yeah, like an hour later, your father will wake up and he won't have like a hacking cough. Like he's been coughing up blood for weeks now, and he'll like wake up and he won't even be wheezing. He'll just
Like there was no longer that blue tinge to like his lips, and like his gums are pink instead of white, and like there's just like, you know, more circulation and oxygen, like just looks healthy and flushed.
Yep, he'll be able to stand like without your help, and he like won't understand how that's happened. But there's like tears in his eyes of joy.
And Astrid will just kind of like it say it was Odin. It was Odin and his raven. Like referring to Odd, not his at the Odd's raven, but actually Odd.
Yeah, he'll just smile and like hug you, and then we'll like go outside and like take in a breath of like fresh air. And then
like, Kaori will like come up and like, you know, do like the whole like dog like the thing where I haven't seen like my owner in 7 years, and just kind of do that little like happy like little yip thing where he's just all like the little dog and just like puppy face all over.
Yep, and he'll like wrestle with the dog, which he like wouldn't have been able to do before. He seems like hale and hearty, considering his age. And so morning will come and you'll gather in the village to go to somewhere. It's really up to you guys. If you wanted to investigate the beasts or if you wanted to investigate the sickness, that's up to you. But we'll take a quick break there and we'll be back in 5.
Woo.
Oh, we have a transition? Oh, this is nice.
Oh, snap.
Oh, look at that.
Hopefully, one of us doesn't stay here and serenade the audience.
I'll be back in a sec.
Remember to mute your OBS, bud. Ooh.
Bam. Huh. So you've met up in the village. It's morning. Someone has been sent to get Theodhild. It's definitely Thorgeir, who fears her greatly. And you've been brought to the village where you can meet. You're told you can bring 5 other people if you want to do Sigegnir, so you can bring a couple of warriors from the village with you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that Sigegnir would bring maybe those who maybe he saw in the battle in the town that are looking pretty, that he's seen and that look good.
Cool. So you can take a couple of those boys with you. And where do you want to go? You can discuss that if you like. But there's basically 2 problems. There's a couple of villages that are like suffering attacks from animals. There's a couple of villages suffering like a sickness.
Yeah, I think that Sigegnir would turn to the others and kind of discuss where they think is best to go to deal with the problem.
The problem
Asvald-
is all around us.
Oswald will just stare at Sigagnir. After that punch thrown, he's not into this shit anymore. He wants to see true leadership.
Odd would speak up if nobody else does.
I was just going to say that Estrider will just kind of say that I don't know what we can do to help with the sickness, but animal attacking, that's, more my speed, I think, but I'll lead us wherever we need to go.
I agree. After 7 days, I will be able to cleanse somebody else, but the animals, I believe, are a more present threat.
Do we know anything about the sickness? Like, will it? She kind of like hesitates to say, but will it keep? Like, how quickly is it wasting these people?
It's like a bunch of people in a particular village, Skog, have come down with this like illness. Their bowels have turned to water. There's like coughs and fevers and things like that. And you imagine like those are the kind of symptoms that in Iskloft will lead to death fairly quickly. Yep.
We should help those who we can get to first. It has never been wrong before. I think that we should go and see about these animals. But quickly. We have made a promise to the Jarl as well.
Which is closer?
So they're both in Jarl Heston's lands.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically west of where you are. 2 days before you get to like the border there. The first village you would come to would be Skog, because that's on the edge of the woods, like the other side of the woods. You'll have to go in on your side, halfway through the border is, and the other side is Skog. And then beyond that, you can travel a little bit further to Fliot, which is where the animals have been attacking.
Oh, well, if we have to go through Skog anyway, we could at very least investigate, maybe?
Yes, yep. If that's closer, then he would definitely say.
You don't have to go through it, it's just like, that's our way to go, Like, you're coming through the woods anyway, so... It's up to you guys, really.
What does Asvald and Thraldhild think?
I think that these problems, they may be similar to how this village was struck. The sick, the curse, it could be because of people messing with things they should not. We should take on the more serious threat.
What do you consider the more serious threat, Asvald?
A man laying sick in bed is not a threat. That is an unfortunate condition.
Theodhild, what do you think?
They're both curses. from the Tuathan. Whether by beast or plague, we will fall. I have seen it. I've heard the crows caw.
Did you see us dying, or did you see a great enemy?
I saw our foe,
Then
the
you
enemy
have not
herself.
seen us falling. And I will not tolerate you speaking of us as if we have already died or as if we will die.
You misunderstand, but I apologize for that.
You've already seen things. Why have you not brought this to us sooner?
I just got here. Thorstein brought me just a few moments ago. I do not have much company in my hut, you see.
When did you receive these visions?
It was last night. A crow came to me. From my
And what-
bread, actually. It was a good loaf. I'm sad to see it so feathery. Still tastes good.
And what did you see?
I saw a place not built by us, by the blonde and red-haired folk of Iskloft. I saw a shrine dedicated to a god before our own, to a god before the gods before our own, and before them still. One that the Tuathan revere. Morgan herself. And she spoke to me. Morgan did. She told me that this is her home. And I understood what she meant with that beaked mouth of hers. She's angry, she's vengeful. She wants us rid. She will stop at nothing until we are but maggot food.
Tell me, this woman, did she have a cloak of birds with black feathers?
To call her a woman would be a disservice. Some see her, yes, as a black feather, but she is the war crow.
Would she be appealing to a man? Did she smile?
I saw her but as a crow. If a crow is appealing to you, Asvald, then yes. She had lovely plumage. And quite a scaly forefeet.
This is no laughing matter, Skag.
Odd lass.
And what kind of question is that, Asvald?
As
You
I laid,
fancy
crushed under the horse in the battle, as I recovered from the grievous wounds, a beautiful woman visited my dreams, cloaked in the feathers of ravens. She smiled over a burnt land.
Were they ravens?
Possibly, I do not know. The feathers were black. But she was beautiful, yes. And she was not a bird. And he would actually turn away from Theodulus, just being completely flustered.
We must act now. Whichever choice we make. While the hounds and animals harass the farmsteads, the plague will fester and stem out of control. I say we stymie the threat of greater risk first. Before the plague spreads to every man, woman, and child in these hills and forests. The animals can wait. There are only so many beasts that lurk in the hills. But who knows how far this plague may spread.
Well, let us not stay here any longer. Let us set out. And Sigegner would just begin walking.
We have horses. Did he give us horses for this, or are we walking?
Let's see. How wealthy is this Jarl?
I'm gonna say Asvald will be very interested in the gear after this battle, and perhaps the horses.
Two
gave us
horses died in the prior battle.
I don't think walking is a great idea.
Yeah, I think you own a horse, Asvald. I know your horse died, Theodhild. But you would have also captured several horses from the Twathans who had like some amazing stallions.
Is it one of those things where we like brought the horses back and our Jarl is just like, oh, this is so great. Let me reward you with these horses you just brought me.
So actually not with the horses, because a fine horse is like so valuable. Like a war horse, is like so valuable that he has to kind of do the thing where like, great, thanks, and he gives you like a lesser horse because he like needs those horses to like breed them because they're outstanding. But the rest of the gear and stuff, absolutely. I haven't like made a list, unfortunately, or maybe I did last time and I've lost it. But there's definitely like a couple of swords in there, and like mail of various descriptions.
What about that Tuathan Prince's like legendary super sword?
Legendary super sword.
Yeah, he had that.
Legendary
cool,
super sword +3.
He had that cool like two-handed rod Irish decapitator thing.
He did have
and they had some bows too. Did they have any good bows in there?
They all threw spears.
Spears. That's right.
Yep.
I thought some of them shot bows at me and Asvald whenever we tried to shoot their druid during the ceremony. Am I misremembering?
Yeah, the Twathans only throw spears. They have this like tradition of skirmishing and cairns and whatnot. Damn. Yes. Someday you'll get a nice bow. That sword was not like. I mean, it's very finely made, but it's not a two-handed sword.
Just like the sword I already have then.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right.
Like it's more expensive because it's got more gold and more inlay, but like it's mechanically the same, Yeah, and I'll like think about that after the game and like give you a proper list, which will be too late because you'll be dead by then.
We'll just assume we have cool stuff, and you can tell us later.
Yeah. So yeah, in terms of horses, I think you probably will be given horses to ride for the journey.
Asvald's actually really curious. He's going to look to the others to see if they even know how to mount or ride a horse.
Well, Astrid already has one. She's got Dag. Dag, the horse, for Day. Her day horse.
Theodhild rides no other horse, but the one that fed the ill fate in the battle.
It is considered unlucky to name your horse, to grow fond of it. Horses die in battle.
I normally didn't, ride Dag into battle, but...
There are yet more days ahead of you. You will see.
Well.
And so
maybe my
go ahead.
Luck will... No, I was just going to say maybe her luck will keep.
We'll see. I've got a thing for murdering horses. You ride north and west from the village and almost immediately enter into the woods. But there are paths and roads put here so that you can travel relatively quickly between the two Jarldoms and you can ride along the way. And there's nothing hassles you in these woods. There are stops every couple of miles, like a little setup where you can water your horses and all the rest. And you can travel with significant speed along the roads until you'll arrive maybe a day later at Skog. It's this little village right on the edge of the woods, almost in the woods. There's maybe like 50 people that live here. And you can like make your way in and immediately you notice that there's like a pall hanging over the place. It's like sense of dread, and you can like see some people outside who are like going about their business in like the little market square built around this like statue and a well, and there's like hacking coughs that you can hear already as you approach, And like seeing these like lords ride into the town, a man will like come forward. He'll introduce himself. He's the elderman of this town. Trigvi is his name. He's like maybe in his 50s. He's got like a white beard and white hair. He'll like look up, impressed at like the finery that you've like brought into his village. Lords, we weren't we weren't expecting such fine.
Odd would hand him her water skin.
He'll like drink from it. Oh god, that killed me. He'll like drink from it, happily. Thank you. We weren't expecting. Oh, thank you. We weren't expecting anyone to come. There's been a sickness, Lord. Maybe it's best you leave. I don't know if you'll catch it. To you, Sigagnir.
Sigagnir just is kind of keeping a bit of a distance. Who is ill so far?
10, Lord. Only 10 so far, but others are tired. And there's more. I should show you. If you'll come with me. And
of course, lead the way.
He'll lead you through the village. And out the other side to where there's some farmsteads. And you'll like pass like a bunch of people going about their business or whatever, but you'll pass notably on the side of the road this like boy, and he has like this little post that's been like hammered into the ground, and like tied to it is a fox that he's got, and he's like jabbing at it with a like a stick, and he's like laughing like it's a game, and he'll like turn to look, and he'll like doesn't know like what to do. He like drops the stick and like looks at you, all of you like lords passing by, and like stands still, afraid. The man will like lead you past to this farmstead, and in the back, the chicken coop. Just last night, Lord, there was an attack by a great many foxes, it seems. I'll show you. And he like leads you into the coop, and you'll see that every chicken is dead. Many of them have been eaten, but the rest of them have been like savaged by foxes, it looks like, but like left here. They've just been killed, and like mutilated, though left here, like not taken away. We don't know what's caused it, Lord.
Does it actually look like foxes did it? Like tiny little paws and like their sharp little teeth? Doesn't look like something bigger or anything like that?
It does look like foxes, yeah.
Okay.
There was a fox tied up outside, right?
Yeah, the boy was like poking and torturing one.
Yeah. The fox out there, was that one that you saw or caught?
Oh, that's Lofi. He must have caught one. It's his farm. Well, his father's farm.
Asphalt actually probably hadn't followed exactly. He wants to inspect this statue that they have, since this place doesn't seem all that glorious, but they do have a statue. He'd like to investigate that.
Sure, so you can turn away from this like poorly farmstead back into the town. There's a statue of Freyr, who's like chief of the Vanir. He's famous warrior. He has like an amazing sword that like fights for him, so he can never lose a fight, for his sword will fight for him. Yeah, and he's like a god who like covers many of similar sort of topics to Odin, but like he's also associated with like some older concepts like nature and farming and things like that.
Right, but he did sit with the Aesir at one point, so Oswald's
Yes,
okay with
they're
that.
allies. Yeah, and Freyr I think is married to one of Odin's either daughters or sister or something. He's high
Oswald
up.
is trying to recall the tale of when Freyr lost his sword. So I think he remembers the tale of that, but then he'll return to the others. He was just hoping this wasn't some sort of ridiculously obscure god that would be causing them issues.
Is that fox being tortured still alive?
Yes.
Odd would ride up to where that boy is and just spear the fox from horseback.
The boy just like looks to you and then looks to the fox, and he's just like standing perfectly still, like shaking.
You are stupid.
They killed our
Do
chick.
not open your mouth. Do not speak. Do not say a word to me. Just stare at me and listen to what I say. You are stupid. Next time you see a fox, you kill it, you skin it, you eat it. You do not torture it. You do not play with it, or more people will get sick. Do you understand me?
He looks like he wants to speak and then just nods.
Where's your family?
He points at the farm.
She lifts the fox up on the spear, and she's going to put the spear horizontal on the horse in front of her, and she says, lead me to them.
He nods, and he'll like bring you through into where the farmstead is, and you'll see like the father is like chopping wood outside. You like turn to see this like strange woman with a spear and a fox on the end. Hello?
My name is Odd. I am a warrior of the Jarl. Your son, after the foxes attacked recently, he kidnapped one and began to torture it. And she holds the spear out, and you can see the fox hanging from it. But clearly, most of the wounds on the fox, like the missing eye, the paw twisted backwards, are clearly not from the spear. And she says to him, if foxes are cursing your town and people are falling sick, your boy is making it worse.
He like looks disappointed at the boy. I told you. When you kill, you eat, you give sacrifice. He looks to you, like sort of kids, huh? Boys will be boys.
And she gives him just like this frigid look, like he's like, boys will be boys. She's like, yeah, anyway. And Odd says to him, I do not think foxes take werewolf. So take my word for this. If he continues to torture these foxes, more people will die. And she like with her boot, she like kicks the fox off and it plumps on the ground, and she says, skin it and eat it. And she will pull the horse around and ride back to where the others are.
The man is like just finishing another hacking, disgusting cough. It's Gegnir, and he's like, we'll offer you a place to stay in the long haul, Lord, and we can see to your horses.
Yes, very good. When did this all begin, the sickness?
Perhaps 2 weeks ago, Lord.
And do you recall who the first was? First to...
Yeah. It all sort of happened at once, Lord. Several of us all started to get a cough.
I think he would also like just turn and just kind of nod his head graciously to this guy before he would turn and just kind of just wander into this this little town just to see if he can get just kind of a good look at it, how it's set up, that kind of thing.
Sure. So it's like a bunch of houses in the actual town. So there's like 3 long houses, and then there's like the usual sort of like craftsmen built around it and whatnot. And then like spreading out from there, away from the woods, there are farmsteads, and then towards the woods there are several like woodcutter camps and like lumber workers and stuff like that. And you would imagine that like further into the woods still there would be like hunters' huts and things.
And 2 weeks ago is when the Twathans landed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Is Astrator with Sigagnir, or did she go somewhere else?
I think she's probably staying with the group. She didn't like go wandering off looking at statues or messing with foxes. So she'd be with Sigagnir and Thjodhild right now, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, I think Sigagnir would just look to Astrator. Maybe that the sickness and these animal attacks may be closer than we thought.
Yeah, I wonder. The other town isn't far from here, right, Lloyd?
Not super far, like maybe a day or two.
Do they have like any sort of like shared like burial mounds, like, or whatever, like where like we saw like the or the war guilt, the oath
Yes.
gold was stolen before? So would there be one that like are like holy for both villages?
You'd imagine so. Yep. You'd think that there would be like for like several villages or whatever, there's like a holy place where they bury.
And Strider would like mention that to Sigagnir. It's like places like this, they're small, and so they share. It's like not quite big enough to form a large city, but common enough to have these threads that bind them all together.
You can see that when you say this burial ground, Sigagnir would just hold on to his Mjolnir, as his shoulders slumping, but he would just nod, and then I suppose that is the first place we should look. It is the best. Well, it is the only thing we have to go on.
Would be rather fortunate for us if it's the same issue affecting this town as it was that affected ours, but it's a good thing to eliminate first, the thing we know.
And so I think Sigagnir would just maybe stop a villager or something and ask for the way to their burial ground.
Yeah, he would like point nervously in a direction, like afraid of talking to a lord. He'll say the word lord 100 times as he speaks to you, and then will like point in a direction.
Lord, it's right over that hill, Lord. I swear, Lord. Just keep going with that horse, Lord. And that's a real nice horse, Lord.
So Aswald's just been kind of wandering around the village, sort of keeping up with the others, but just in awe of how wretched this place is. He thought that he had been to the worst village that he had ever been to previously, and now he is literally sunk into a new low, and he is staring at the chicken corpses and swatting away probably the swarm of flies that have taken up the area. And he kind of yells over to that man who's just groveling about a horse. Why have you not cleaned up the corpses? Keep your sick separate from those who are not. Get control of your village.
That looks at you, just like this villager, and he wants to say like, it's not my job, I don't know, I just cut logs, sir, but he doesn't say anything. He just like shakes his head like, I don't know.
There are times in a man's life when there is a space that must be filled with a leader. Who is that leader here?
The Elderman, Lord.
Is he sick?
He's got a cough, Lord.
Then you should do these things.
I just chop logs, Lord.
So you are strong. You can carry people. You can move them. You can clean up a chicken corpse.
Well, yeah, but I don't want to get sick, Lord.
Take this, and he will like take a piece of cloth, hold it to his face, kind of show the man. There are things here that are much worse than this. We are here to deal with them. Do not worry about being sick. And he'll hand the man a few hacks over. At least clean up the corpses. It is disgusting. There are flies. And then he'll turn and walk the other direction.
He'll like look at the silver, which is more than he's ever held in his life, and will like smile. Thank you, Lord. And we'll go and clean up the chicken corpses. Do you want to go investigate the burial mounds now? Do you want to rest for the evening?
Theodhild is going to be examining the perimeter of the village, looking for fetishes, little baubles or symbols, anything of that nature, charms that may have been strung up by people that are not Iskloftian.
Ooh,
Looking
good
for
idea.
things that the common eye wouldn't notice, but someone more Seath-wise could.
Sure. Can you give me an investigation, please?
Awesome. That is a 22.
Nice. Yep. So you like go and like wander the perimeter of the village and like into the woods. You're like searching for any sort of strange symbols, things like that. You will notice as you like walk that there's like a smell of like piss, like strong animal piss, along several like trees and stuff. And you will notice like on those trees that there's like a symbol, just like very small, cut into the bark, here and there, around the outskirts of the village. It's not a symbol that you recognize. It's not like a rune, and it's also.
No.
It's not like a spiral the way you would traditionally associate with like the Tuathans. It's something alien to you.
And and is the same symbol, or is it multiple different ones?
It's the same one.
Yeah, and so she just memorizes the symbol and its shapes and curvatures, and comes back to the village to find Sigagnir and Astrid and Asvald. And Odd is Odd there too?
Nah, Odd is not there.
All right. Toadhild goes to the three of you, and she talks directly at you, Sigagnir, but she speaks loud enough for all to hear. I'm unsure if the burial grounds, if that is their target. If that was how this curse was laid. I've wandered around this village. I found symbols of magics alien even to me. It seems a curse was laid upon this village through hex and charm. It's that caused this blight, not the vengeance of some dead man who seeks his oath gold. But perhaps we will entertain this idea. For who knows, maybe it is both in unison that causes such a plight. But I fear such an excursion may be of folly and time well wasted.
I would see this thing. It's strange. Not that I
It's
doubt
not-
you, of course.
Keep in mind, it's not a
As-
rune.
Astrid
would
will
know
kind
of
of
a rune.
smile at Asvald's comment there. Not that I doubt you.
If you wish. I would
I've
mind the
wondered-
smell.
Ugh. I've wandered far. I've met many people. Travelers from far and wide. Perhaps I know, perhaps not, but
And I lead you to the many trees that stink of animal piss, that have the carving near their trunk. When I point them out to you, I kind of brush aside the dirt and the bark that maybe have been covering it, or the trees and the foliage that hides them from view. This. And she points to it.
and I might have missed it earlier. Is that a Seath-wise or a lore-wise? Or is
It was just an investigation to find them. So it's not a rune, and it's definitely not something that you would know. So, like a Seath-wise or a lore-wise, like wouldn't reveal anything, even on like a crazy success or whatever. It's just like not something that you've ever seen before. It's not something you've ever heard of before. It's something alien.
And I can't even invoke my Valleylander Old Ways feature, which is to be able to identify old things or old way things. So even probably beyond that still.
maybe that feature would allow it.
Would Thjordhild have advantage because I have that as well? Like both of us, like being Valleylanders, might be able to like, oh, there's this one story of like this one elf-blooded creature that came and cursed a village this one time.
Okay.
Or
go
can
for
we?
it.
All right. I'll make that lore-wise check then.
Clearly, someone mad of spirit. Someone who has had their head smashed. Perhaps they were lost in the trees too long. This is
That is not a
madness.
marking of a head smashed. That is a marking of a 16 lore-wise check.
So you think with, like I say, it's not runes, it's not Tuathan script or like the spirals of their magic. You think that like when you think about like foxes and like these symbols, that there is a connection there, but you're just not able to like piece it together. There's something. You're trying to think. There is like a legend about foxes that will like haunt a village for whatever reason, and like you're trying to piece it together, but you just don't quite know what it is.
Yeah, and this just confirms Thjordhild's valid suspicions already. This marking here, I do not know of it. I do not know its name, its purpose, but I know it is belonging to the foxes. That piss. Does the piss smell like fox piss?
I was just going to ask that.
Yeah.
Because I'm a hunter, do I know if it smells like fox piss?
Of course you know what that smells like.
Well, I mean, it's kind of my job.
Yep, I mean
Fox piss.
you'd be familiar with dealing with foxes because they're like a nightmare for villages and stuff like that. Though you would have been told, Astrid, by your father, kind of like what Odd had said, like when you kill something, don't be cruel. Like it's not necessary. Yeah.
I think I have figured out. A drunk squirrel has stolen a man's knife and danced upon the tree. This is what this is.
Not only is that good, Aswald, it was a drunk squirrel that fancied a crow woman. Come back. Let's come back to the village. I wish to see the illest of the ill.
If this is what you think is causing it, Throathill, do you know how to break it? Is it, you said it's around the village. Is it a circle? Is it like one of your rituals? Did someone come here in the woods and make these markings and do this? Is there a way to break it?
And Thjordhild looks at the DM. Would
Okay, so it's not a circle.
Would she know, would she know that of ways to break such a charm in general?
You don't know enough about it to know what it's doing, and therefore not enough to know how to break it either. You know, so you're not sure.
And so she relays just like it's so alien. It's of a make so far beyond even the reaches of Yggdrasil.
This place is wretched and sad. Perhaps we burn everything. Move those that are still able to.
And then the crow woman wins. You saw her burn the land, and you wish to burn it as well. I see that you fancy her. It is obvious.
He looks at the Thjordhild again, and he looks like he wants to like have a retort and say something, and then he just snaps his mouth shut, kind of tugs on his beard, and then looks away.
I think Sigadnir would just kind of start off because he's noticed that Odd has not come with them, and he can't handle the stupidity of Oswald and Thjordhild. So he just kind of like grumbles off in search of Odd.
Odd is. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say Astrider follows.
Odd is at the edge of the forest on horseback, and the raven is perched on her right shoulder. She hands it a bit of meat, and it eats the meat, throws it back, consumes it all at once, and then it hops in front of her, and she looks down to the raven, and she asks it, Where is the place of power in here that I must go? Show me, Odin. Where in this damned forest will I find the next person you want me to kill? And sometimes the raven will fly somewhere, other times it won't do anything. And so she just stares at it and hopes that this is one of the times that are the former.
It just like turns its head to the side, like listening, and then like pecks affectionately at your like fake eye, and then just like looks and sees something shiny and like flies down onto the ground and like grabs it and brings it back to you. It's like this little tiny sliver of hack silver, and like puts it on your shoulder. Ah!
She takes it, she polishes it with her thumb, she thinks nothing of it, and she puts it away. And then she takes something out of the pack, something she'd taken from the fox before she'd give it back to the family. It's a small little jar, and what's in the jar is barely enough to make a phlegm at the bottom, but the stench is strong. She took some of the fox's piss, and she uncovers the jar, and she smells it, and she looks to the raven, and then that's when she would hear a Strider and Sigegnir coming up, I imagine. And she turns the horse around, and she says, Strider, I have here fox piss. That is another strange thing I have told you in the last few days. But this one is important. I want your hound to smell it, and then to find where this fox's burrow was.
I think that's simple enough to do, yeah? Like, Kari would,
Yep.
Shoot. Yeah.
She's a hunting hound.
Yeah.
She hands you the jar that has just the tiniest bit of fox urine in it.
So,
do we wish to do this now, Sigegnir? Once I set him on the trail, best to do it quickly before the trail is lost. But if we have other things to do, basically waiting for Sigegnir's go before loosing Kari.
Yes, I think that this is our best lead. But first he would quickly just hold his hand up and he would tell Odd of the markings in the tree that Theodhild found, and that she could not decipher what they were, and that everything was surrounded by fox piss.
She is but a woman. I do not expect her to know what it means. I suspect what it might be. I may be wrong. But if it is what I think it is, then it will probably kill us all tonight regardless.
No better time to make haste then, and he would kind of nod to Astrider.
Yeah, and so she'll, get down and with the jar of piss and hold it up for Kari and give him the command word for seek and give him a scratch behind the ears.
He'll immediately bolt and come to rest for a moment, like sniffing around the base of one of these trees that has one of the symbols upon it, and then will sniff and then bolt to the next one, and we'll go to all these various trees, and at the last one we'll sniff around and sort of go back to the previous one, and then sniff around, and we'll basically go back up the chain, and then at the top we'll go all the way back again. He'll just move along these trees, and he'll when he's done it 3 times, he gets to the end and he looks at you sorry, this is, and he's obviously frustrated because he's he knows he's done this several times, but he's it's leading him back to the same place.
And she'll tell him good boy and give him scratches or scritches, and kind of say there's no trail for him to follow, unfortunately. It's a good thought, Odd, but perhaps the stench on these trees are too strong for him to find the trail beyond them.
Odd listens to this, and she hoists a spear that she'd stabbed a fox with, and she begins to clean it. And she says to you, either that, or these are not foxes from this forest. Sigegnir, I will sleep outside tonight. If something is to attack again, which I think it will, I would like to meet it first.
Where could these foxes have come from if not from this forest?
I do not know, and I do not want to know.
Perhaps the Tuathans brought them with them?
That is a kinder thought than my own.
Likewise, I will not sleep tonight. I will make my own markings upon the trees of this village, perhaps to ward off the ill omens and curses brought upon these simple folk.
Will the normal people among you sleep?
Aswald's gonna. I mean, he thinks that the search is kind of floundering, so he's gonna start looking into the houses of any of the sick, and he's gonna try to investigate the belongings of those, particularly starting with the eldermen, looking through their belongings, trying to find something that's out of place to him. Maybe someone received a gift from the Tuatha or the Ton, or someone has been hiding something.
Sure.
So he'll take the rest of the evening while there's light to do that.
You can give me an investigation for your investigation.
Oh yeah, this is his jam right here. Expertise. So 23.
Okay, so you like parse your way through all of these things that like all the people have who are sick, and like your first thought is like, man, these people are poor. Like, you know, they're Valleylanders, so they're better off than like almost everyone else in Iskloft. Almost, right? Because it's like so bountiful here and so green comparatively, but like not as wealthy as people who lives in the King's Castle, which is where you are from. And so there's just like nothing. You're like looking through, and they have like little wooden carvings and like scrimshot fish bones and things like that they think are valuable. But like there's no gold, no silver, nothing like that. And nothing that would like alert you towards like a gift or anything sort of coming from the Tuathans. Like you have seen how wealthy they are and how much gold they have, and you would think if they're going to gift you something, it would be gold. So there's nothing really that like strikes you as odd.
About how many houses is Aswald able to look through?
You would have looked through. I mean, if you're doing it all evening, you could look through all of them. There's only 10 sick people.
Okay, Aswald is going to take pity on these people, and he's from the one of the larger cities, I believe, in Isklof, and he's used to, as he walks through the town, seeing the poor, the destitute, kind of on the street corners, and so he will actually leave 1 hack silver in each house that he visits as after he investigates. So I'm gonna mark down 10 off there.
Nice. Yeah,
I would like
just sort of taking pity on them.
The people like are grateful, and there's like more enthusiasm when they say Lord. It's kind of expected that like somebody of wealth will give to poor people, especially if they like are helpful in any sort of way. So there's like affection of the people towards you.
Yeah, and after he leaves each house, you'll come. You'll tell me if there's something you remember. In the last week or two, did someone visit? Have you seen someone out of place? We need to know to help.
Yeah, overall, they're just like nothing is weird, nothing's unusual apart from like the fox attack and like the sickness that's come.
Estrader wants to check the well. See, like, you know, if there's anything in the well that shouldn't be, like more, like maybe fox corpses in the well or anything like that. She wants to like, she's gonna check and see if anyone's like messed with the water here.
Okay. Do you want to climb down into it, or
how is it?
I mean, it's a well,
is
so it's deep.
Is that doable? Is it doable for that, or?
I mean, you could get down. I don't know about getting back up. You know, like,
Well, I think
it's a well. It's like dug pretty deep. It's like stone on the top or whatever, and it obviously goes down quite a distance. You can like pull up the water, like a pail of water or whatever, and it seems fine.
It doesn't smell.
Doesn't smell. You want to drink it?
Nah. It's like I think like even like in places like this, like you know if you're in a village where a bunch of people are getting sick and there's no real connection, like the water is usually like the first place to check, and so like she's like looking for like the smell of something rotting in this water that or something like that, or just like if anybody's like done any kind of like sabotage to it, because it's, you know, a public thing. Everybody goes to the water, so it's like one of like the common places. Like this and like houses are going to be like the two places that people go like communally. And so just wanting to make sure that it's all kosher.
Yeah, it seems to be.
Like how deep is the well?
I mean, I don't know how deep a well is, but like like well beyond
35 feet.
Yeah, something like that. It's like pretty deep, right? Like you can't see the bottom, definitely not. And you know, it's like not dug with the intention of anyone going down or back up again.
Yeah.
You know, there's obviously like a bucket or whatever, and maybe you could like hold on to that or something like that to come back up, but it's deep.
Yeah. She's.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, Astrid Segagnil, I want to go into the forest. I want to go when the sun sets.
Esther would just kind of nod, I think. Same time as Sigegnir. The odd makes a request, and we're both just kind of like, yeah, okay.
Sigegnir, I will join you. And he's going to tell 3 of the 5 to keep watch in the city or in this town, just at different sides during the night, and then halfway through to switch out with the other 2. And he was going to be very clear that if they see anything, they are not to engage with it, but just make a lot of noise and alert the others of what they see.
Yeah, your impression is that Thorstein is very happy to hear he doesn't have to engage. And he'll just like nod. So like night will fall. Are any of you going to sleep, or are you all going to go to the woods? What's the story?
I think if Otta and Sigegnir are going to the woods, Astrader will go with them, with Kari.
And Theodhild, you have your own thing to do, right? You're going to do some...
yeah, I'm going to sacredify the ground of this place.
Okay. And Oswald?
Oswald will overwatch the village as a whole, gathering those that wish to and are well enough to pray to Odin near the statue, probably in the center of town somewhere. He's going to be asking for guidance.
Sure. So you can watch over the town there, and night will fall quickly as it does in winter. And you can go into the woods. As like it starts to get dark, Theodhild, you're like drawing, I imagine, symbols and things, and you're like doing your ritual to try and bring a sanctity to this place. You who are going to the woods, what is your intent in the woods?
Odd's original intent, and she's doing this on horseback, she's walking, is that she wants to see if, one, they find anything strange in the woods, like the altar that Theodhild had saw, and 2, she wants to see if anything will attack them in the woods, pretty much.
Okay.
It's half investigation, half bait.
Yep. So you can begin doing that.
And I think like every, like, you know, like whenever we're like a goodly distance away from like the village and stuff, like Estrader will also try to see if Kari can seek that fox scent again, but you know.
Yeah, you'll find that Kari will return to the trees.
Yeah, if he starts to head back towards the trees, she'll call him back. So
yeah. So you'll begin like wandering through the woods and like trying to basically lure something towards you, and like searching for any sort of weirdness. So it's a struggle. You don't seem to find anything out of place as an hour goes by. There is maybe 2 hours into the night a point where Thorstein will call to you, Oswald. Oswald.
Yes.
Look. And he's like just at the edge of like where the light of the village is. He's like outside of it so he can see into the dark. and you can see like just beyond the light of the village that there are like a number of eyes there, fox eyes. You think there must be 20 foxes, just all kind of sitting outside of where the light of the village is. What the fuck is this?
Oswald will immediately use the control flames cantrip to increase the brightness of the fire in the area. I would assume there's some sort of campfire or cooking fire, just so he can see. And he'll try and keep any of the villagers kind of behind him, looking out towards these eyes.
You can do so, and like as you increase the brightness of the flame, you'll see for a moment all these foxes, but they'll like immediately scamper back to like the darkness. There are like 30 foxes there, all just like standing in this one area, just standing there like watching, looking into the village.
Are all the eyes on the same level? All low to the ground like a fox would be?
Yes. Yep.
Has Oswald ever heard of an occurrence like this?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely very weird to you. Thorgeir is like gripping his Mjolnir amulet like something is obviously wrong here. And he's like, should we chase them off?
Be cautious. These foxes. Something is wrong. Keep everyone back, especially the children. Put those inside who are too weak to fight. Everyone else, grab a weapon. Grab a torch, fire, stick, something.
Aye, Lord. And they'll go about that business. Theotild, as you're carving symbols into the trees and like going about your business and like trying to sanctify this place, as you're like you move away from one of the trees towards the next, you can hear this like scampering. As you like turn around, you can see that there are like a number of foxes walking out from behind one of those trees, as if they were like all hiding on one side of it, and they like run like out, and like one of them will like look at you, but then they'll like scamper in the direction of the village.
And that was one of the marked trees, right?
Yeah.
She pauses mid-carving, seeing these foxes. But she advances towards the tree, towards where these foxes were hiding. And she looks at, she kind of, are they aggressive towards her advance?
No, they seem intent on going to the village and not towards you. They don't seem bothered by you.
And so she then examines further this tree stump.
Yeah, the symbol is still there. There's a faint, as you like put your hand onto the tree, faint like hum that comes from it. You can like feel it rather than hear it. Something is like active here. And as you like put your hand on it, your dog Astrid begins to like and like turns back in the direction of the tree, and it's like straining on the lead, like barking loudly.
It's like there's something going on. Like she'll call to Sigignir and Odd. And
Draws.
yeah.
And is one of the trees close to us, Lloyd?
No, you're quite a bit away, but the dog is like straining in that direction.
It's like something's going on back near the tree, I think. Maybe. Or near the village, because that's the same direction, so.
Odd will fix the bone mask to the lower half of her face and normally hangs around her neck. She fixes it to her face, and she begins to move with purpose back towards those trees.
In the village, Oswald, you're like the people have been like put into houses and stuff, and you've got those who are able to fight, who are like standing ready and like looking at this weird gathering of foxes, and that's when you can hear this like noise of pouring water, and you can like turn towards the well, and you can see that like squatting on the well on the edge of it is like a man. He's like hunched over, he's got like a hood, like a long cloak over him, and he seems to be pissing into the well. He's like squatting there with his back turned to you. You can see that the guard posted on the other side is like just looking out as if nothing has happened. He's like looking out into the darkness, and this is what you see.
Other than him kind of like perched on the edge here, is there anything about him that stands out? Is he carrying things? What is he dressed like?
He's not carrying anything. He's got this like big black cloak with like a hood and cowl that covers him, so you can't really see any part of him. He's just like squatting on the side of the well on the stone and like pissing down into it.
Okay. Asvald will start walking towards this man, and he's gonna look to the others. Who is this? Is he of your village? And he will begin inscribing runes into his hammer that he's done many times before a battle. And they're all just ignoring him.
So the
or
guy,
just the
guy on the
guard.
other side, who like he would have obviously come past if he came from outside, hasn't seen anything. It seems the guys who are with you are like looking at him like, what the fuck is happening? Like they are stunned and as weirded out as you are.
Yeah. Oswald will call out. He doesn't know how far the others have gone, but he will call out into the night loudly, "To the village now!" And then he will move forward and try and apprehend this person, calling out to them, "You there! Off the well now!"
It will turn around, and you'll see that there's like a fox face on top of this like man. It's like naked man. He like turns and lets out that horrible fox scream, that like red fox scream, that it's like this anguished scream. He like turns with like this fox face, and all of the foxes on the side as well at the same time release this like insane scream, and it's like deafening, and all the people in the village are screaming. And that's where we're going to end today's session because we're going way over. So thanks very much, guys. That was really fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you watched it, check out all of these lovely people on YouTube. I actually linked them for once, which I should continue to do in future. So check out Dice and Ice and Mastered by Marquise. I don't know if you guys have channels, Cameron and
I do actually.
I'll
They have
link it.
like 3 games on it, but that's it.
I'm not Ninja DM. I don't record my game.
Cool.
Maybe someday. Maybe someday.
Someday. You should get on it. Thank you for watching and all the rest, and we'll see you next time if I can figure out how to stop this. Okay, bye.